see you, Neil.
I haven't been in it for a little while, and I've forgotten how beautiful a car it is.
Well, Aston Martin certainly put together the package so beautifully. And yeah, I mean, this is a special edition, of course. And
what is it? Why is it a special edition?
So when the DB9 came to the end of its lifespan, and Aston Martin do this quite well, they bring out special editions. And this one, for the first time ever, was actually what they call a Bond edition, so a fully licensed.
Which they've never done before in there.
They've never done it before,
years.
Even though they have had a 50-year association with Bond and Aston Martin. When the film Spectre was launched, they decided to make a car that celebrated that 50-year relationship. And so this was this car. This was one of 150 worldwide, and it was called the Bond Edition. It's the DB9 GT Bond Edition.
And there's lots of nice little features which I think they picked up on earlier. But also there were some nice extras in the boot, weren't there?
Yes. So typical Bond fashion, you got a suitcase rammed full of special goodies. So there was this watch.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
We'll have to have a look at that.
So the Bond Edition watch from the film Spectre, and they also came out with a pen, a special passport cover.
It was a Globetrotter case, wasn't it?
It was a Globetrotter
Not just
case.
a case, it was a Globetrotter case.
So homage to the movies. So everything that was in the package was in the film.
And it's a Spectre Silver as well, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So the only Aston Martins that were that came with this colour are this special edition and the 10 DB10s that were in the film. These are the only cars with this colour.
And this is a 6-litre V12 naturally aspirated.
Exactly.
Now it's quite a heavy car. How is it not 60 and speed-wise?
So it's not a Ferrari beater. This isn't a car that's designed to go lightning quick, but it'll do 0 to 60 in around about 4 seconds.
So plenty quick.
Plenty quick for the roads and being legal.
And it sounds amazing.
Yeah, and the V12 roar, the 6-litre, it sounds like a lion bellowing. It's beautiful.
And you also don't have to rev it. I mean, I was in the Porsche earlier.
Yeah.
You really have to get it to 7,000 revs to get it coming alive.
No.
This
will do it at 2 or 3, especially in the lower gears. So even if I just 25 miles an hour.
Oh, it's just a symphony.
It is. I mean, one of the great things about these V12 Aston Martins are the soundtrack that comes with them.
And it's wherever you go, you must get a positive response in this car.
It's one of those sports cars that doesn't get negativity. It only gets admiration, and that's from all ages, all genders, because it is a thing of beauty. And it's not trying too hard to be too flashy. It's just elegance.
It's the Savile Row suit, isn't it?
Very much so. It's the gentleman's car, but I get more positive comments from women than from men, actually.
Which is rare. Mostly when you drive a big yellow Lamborghini, you just get lots of male attention. Only.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So every time it's getting washed or it's in filling station, I'll always have a woman approach to say that's a beautiful thing.
Car,
yeah, exactly. And it's the one sports car that I've owned that my wife will actually drive.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
No, she loves it. I know Salima really enjoys this car.
She does, yeah. And we took it to Clifton one night, and she had a great time driving it. And
can you get your little ones in the back, or is
of course
it tight?
we can.
Yeah?
No, I mean you could. Well, my 6-year-old's starting to get a little bit tall for her, but those seats are actually perfect for children.
Family car. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason I bought it.
And rewinding a little bit back, you obviously didn't qualify and buy this car.
Right.
What year did you qualify and where from? Was it?
So I qualified in 1992, late 92, from Trinity College in Dublin.
It looks beautiful. I've visited.
Yes, stunning place, great dental school, fantastic university all around. So 1992, and I came it was before VT, so I came to England to work on the National Health Service all those years ago. I spent 4 or 5 years, working all hours that God could send on the National Health Service, 30 to 40 patients a day, and that whole.
And whereabouts in England, sorry?
So that was in South London.
Okay, so
that was in Streatham.
Wow, Streatham. Okay.
Yeah. And after 3 or 4 years of slogging my guts out, and I left dental school right when the big recession had hit at the end of the 80s. So I was paying 19% interest on my student loan.
Wow.
And I had a large debt to pay. So I worked for 4 years, paid that off. I'd left school and gone straight into dentistry, so I'd never had a gap year or a year off. So I decided then at 26 to spend a year and a half going around the world.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I've done that as well for 2 years, and it makes you as a person as well, doesn't it? So you can relate to people better, relate to patients better.
Very much so. And I did a little stint with the Flying Doctors in Australia.
Oh, yeah, me too, yeah.
So that was good fun. And then I knew I was ready, once I got that out of my system, I was ready, and I wanted to work in private practice.
Yeah.
So I came back and worked as an associate for a while, and then bought the practice that I was working in.
So how many practices have you had over the last 10, 15 years?
So those that I've actually owned myself, either in partnership or outright, I've owned 7 dental practices.
So I mean, you're a real entrepreneur in getting a business, making it successful, and making that work for you. And a lot of young dentists are now buying practices at an early age. What's sort of the advice you can give them, having been there and done it?
Well, I think for me originally it wasn't about being an entrepreneur. It wasn't about wealth or the business aspect of it. It was that I wanted to create an environment that I wanted to work in. So it was to have control over the equipment, the materials, to make it a very special experience for the patients.
Exactly what I did. I just wanted to practice the type of dentistry.
Yeah, and also so that when the patients walked in, they went, "Wow, this is really something special." And then, of course, it became the business model because all the practices that I had were very successful. The ones that I decided to move on from, I doubled value and I sold and then moved on from there. But each time I'd reached the potential of one practice, it was time to move on to the next one. So the advice, look, I think if you want to have full control over what you're doing, you should do your own thing. If you want to really just focus on the clinical aspects and not have the headaches of the business management, then work as an associate, but find a good principal who has the same value system and is prepared to mentor you and look after you.
Was one of the changing factors, I know for me, going to Spear and how I wanted to work was going to Pankey. Did that have a big influence on you?
Massive. So
when did you go?
So I started going 2000. I had been to the States and done a couple of veneer courses and cosmetic dentistry courses, but the one thing I had very, very little knowledge of was occlusion and how to tackle complex cases and complex treatment planning. So it was very important for me to go somewhere where I could learn that. But Pankey offered so much more. It offered a way to really embrace sort of the co-discovery experience with the patient.
I mean, he was well ahead of his time, wasn't he?
Oh, he was.
In terms of looking after his community,
absolutely.
Looking after the patient, looking after himself.
Well, Pankey's Pankey's great phrase was that he never saw a tooth walk into his dental practice, and that phrase says it all. It's we're dealing with people.
And this is so handy for you with all the Invisalign you do, the orthodontics. It still has value, doesn't it?
Huge amount.
And we see a lot of single tooth dentistry, a beautiful composite on Instagram. And those guys need to jump to the next level of understanding a quadrant and then understanding a full arch.
Definitely. And also understanding that the dentition, a patient has their dentition for life, so you have to manage it for their life.
Yeah. I always think, how do I get to this patient to 90 with the rest of his teeth for the rest of his life?
Yeah, exactly.
What's a long-term approach, not
exactly
a short-term approach?
It's also about making sure that things last.
And talking about clinics, you've got a very exciting new project. You can't keep still, really, can you?
Yeah. So
tell me about the new one.
So after 17 years with building my Harley Street practice, when I got married and we had children, we moved out to Buckinghamshire, and I have small children now, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I wanted to spend more time with them, so opened a new clinic in Beaconsfield, which is 15 minutes from my house. And it's a new concept in the sense that actually under the same roof I have a partner and a plastic surgeon and an aesthetics, facial aesthetics and facial surgery expert. So we're combining the whole cosmetic dentistry, aesthetics, head and neck aesthetics piece together. It's called Define Clinic and it's in Beaconsfield.
And do you find it's the same challenges with each practice? So you kind of know what to expect, or do you find each one is like a new baby with new issues?
You're speaking with experience, Neil. Yes, of course. Yeah. And this is a whole new set of different challenges. The main one being that I'm in I have a dental practice within another practice run by a doctor, and they just operate so differently. The whole patient journey is different. Whilst the patients may be interested in looking better, dentistry is a totally different way of going about things. We have a much more methodical approach. Treatment plans are far more complicated in dentistry than in aesthetics.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of patients will come in from the medical side of things, have one procedure. Dentistry is usually a combination of procedures to get them where they want to.
Especially that holistic approach.
Oh, 100%. So that's been interesting, learning about each other's worlds and actually blending a practice with CQC and making sure that it ticks all the boxes from that perspective.
So, one thing I really admire about you is the drive. You get up early in the morning, you're at the train station, you do the dentistry, you run the practice, you have the beautiful kids, you have the beautiful wife. It all takes drive and determination. Does that come from your childhood, or is it within you? Where is that fire from?
I think that it's an interesting question. I'm watching my own children now develop and see them having, a drive for certain things, even at a very young age. I remember a sports day when I was about 5, and being very excited and wanting to win the prize in the football slalom and the running race, and the sense of achievement that I got from actually coming home with the first prize. So there was an element of it just happening naturally, but I think a huge part of it was that I know the way I like to have things. I'm very particular, and for me it was always about the customer service, the experience of the patient. So everything that I've done was about improving things, not only in my world, but subsequently I've realized that it improves things for everybody. You get an opportunity to teach and to mentor and guide people and help them better themselves.
And what's the plan for the next 10 years?
So obviously get this clinic off the ground. The concept of the dual consultation and the blended treatment plans is there, and we want to develop that, open some more clinics, and maybe have systems and protocols that we can license out to other dentists, teaching platforms, dentists and doctors.
So get it working, get the base model sorted, choose the right areas, franchise it out, but keep the control and the quality.
Yes, exactly. And I'm building a teaching centre at the new clinic as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we're going to do bespoke training.
Third-party training, or are you guys doing the training?
Well, so us mostly, but also bring other people in. So we're going to create a faculty. Have some dear friends and colleagues of mine that are excellent in other ways that I'm not, to come in to be part of the training program, and it's going to be a very unique training program for dentists, covering every aspect of how to be successful in dentistry, not just how to be great at a composite, how to manage your business, how to manage your team, marketing, patient communication, treatment planning. So I'm very excited about that actually.
How do you have all the time? I struggle with time management. I probably wasted it too much time, but are you very much get up at 5 and get loads of stuff done before, or you work late? What's your time management?
What's interesting is when I'm at home at the weekends, I can't focus. I want to be with my kids and my wife, and that's my time to wind down. But as soon as I get up in the morning, and that's sort of anywhere between 5:30 and 6:30, depending on what I'm doing that day, it's hell for leather. So answering the emails, getting on with my thinking, goal setting.
So you work hard and then you have family time, and you
Family,
keep the two things distinct.
Absolutely, because I've tried to do it, and what I find is that I feel guilty when I'm around the children and I'm trying to work and they want to be with me. I feel guilty, and really it's not fair. You've got to spend time with your spouse and enjoy each other's company, and work is work and keep work as work. Now, saying that, there are times you do have to work till midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 in the morning. I gave a webinar the other day to the States, live the other night, so 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which was 1 a.m. UK time. So I got to bed at 3 a.m. And then the following day I saw my first patients at the new clinic. So there are times when that has to happen. But I think, people talk about work-life balance. It's impossible to have everything in balance all the time. There are times when you have to favor one aspect of your life, and it's understanding that, I think, is key. And it took me a long time to understand that it's okay. It's okay that 1 month your focus is going to be on the, writing the protocols and the systems for your new practice, and the next month it's okay to spend a bit of time with your family.
I know you also support your nursing staff, and there's a lot of training and in-house training,
Yeah, very
care
much so.
coordination. That's an integral part of the service that you guys give.
Yes.
What have you learned in terms of the best ways of managing that side of people? What do they respond to?
That's a very good question. And different people respond to different things. That's the first thing. I guess it's about finding out what motivates people and what they're really interested in learning more about. So that's the first aspect of it. But most people want to improve, and if you guide them and help them to do so, they invariably respond in ways that you sometimes find surprising.
I have found it where I've had a nurse and moved her to the reception, and she's absolutely blossomed.
Yes.
And it's really rewarding when people thrive in new environments.
Absolutely. I've just taken on somebody recently, and she's never been allowed the freedom to order certain types of materials and burrs and equipment at a very, very high quality, and is thrilled also that I'm very organized. So we've created our own treatment tubs and our treatment protocols, and her input has been just as much as mine, and she's really excited, almost emotional at the end of her days at the moment, because she feels so rewarded.
And obviously you didn't qualify and buy an Aston. What was your
no.
first car? What's the car journey been like?
So my first car was a Renault 14,
Okay.
a white thing that was a 1.4 ugly white thing.
Yeah.
And eventually what happened, the clutch went. And then I got the clutch temporarily repaired and drove it around for a while like that. So no, I didn't actually buy what I would consider to be a really nice car till I was about 10 years qualified.
Yeah.
And I had a Honda Prelude.
Oh, they were nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, was it the first generation with the sort of triple lights at the front, or was it the pop-up lights?
No, it was the first generation, and it looked like a wolf from the front. It was really cool.
That was a good-looking car.
Yeah, it was a really nice
What year
car.
was that?
Let me think. I think.
Because I think that came out in 90s.
Yeah, it was mid-90s, maybe 95, 96.
The MR2 came out, the
That's
Honda
right.
Prelude.
That's right.
The Civic.
Correct. Exactly. And it was jet black.
RX-7s and Mitsubishi 3000s. Japan had a real resurgence of sports cars.
They did, and I liked all of them.
Yeah.
And the one that that I fell for was the Prelude, and I loved that car.
it had that dash with the digital dash across.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But it looked awful from behind. It looks beautiful from the front.
I like the back.
Yeah, and so I loved that car. It was great, and it had a bit of go. But it was a 2.2 litre engine. Then I went travelling, so all the money went on that, and then it took me a while to build back up. So it wasn't until I was 30, and my goal was 30,
Yeah.
that I bought my first 911.
And which gen was that?
So it was 996.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, although I spent years jealously staring at the 993s, the air-cooled ones. I really wanted one of those, but I just couldn't afford them.
They were probably prettier. The 996 had the funny lights.
It did, but
it handled brilliantly.
Exactly, and I waited until second gen, and I got a C4S convertible, so a cabriolet,
wide-bodied.
Yeah, and it was black. So then I went down to a 997 turbo.
997 turbo. What colour?
It was silver, so Arctic silver.
That had a PDK or?
No, it was manual.
Oh, it was a manual. Nice.
Yeah.
Manual turbo 997 silver.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a jump, wasn't it?
Oh my goodness, that car was
speed-wise.
Absolutely, it was immense. And then I decided I wanted to build a Spec 1 factory collect, and so I ordered a 997 turbo cab, and went over to Germany with my father as a special treat. And,
amazing.
And factory picked it up and brought it home again.
Drove it back from Stuttgart.
And that was amazing, an amazing trip. And my father was a rally driver, so
that's what I was going to say. Is that where the love of driving comes from?
Yeah. He was a sportsman all round, but he was an amateur privateer rally driver. And so when I was a child, this is when the 911 came into rallying and road rallying, and my best friend's dad was a championship rally driver. He won 9 international rallies in 911s. In fact,
wow.
Yeah, in one car. In fact, the car that he drove is still one of Porsche's most successful cars. So I was absolutely besotted with 911s as a young boy. We used to be, sitting hedges watching rally cars when I was a kid, and so that's where the love of cars came from. So I had to take my dad on that trip.
Yeah.
He loved it. He absolutely loved it.
So a couple of Porsches, your dad doing the rallying in the Porsches, the Honda,
Yeah.
the Renault Banger,
Yeah.
and then the Aston. And nowadays, I suppose practicality has to play a part with dogs and kids and stuff. And
Yeah.
so have you got a run around as well?
Yeah, so I've got a little Citroen that I take to the station because I commute into London most times. So that's just a little contract hire car that gets me up and down the hill. I had a Land Rover Defender, which is one of my favourite cars because we live in the heart of the countryside. We've got a Discovery because we've got the 2 kids and the dog and the cat, and the 7-seater was important. Grandparents visiting.
And has that been good?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved Range Rovers and Land Rovers. I've had lots of them over the years. So, yeah, I mean, that's the sort of the everyday car.
And talking about sort of greenhouse gases and electric, when you see a car like that that's been probably 40 years old,
Yeah.
I mean, how much more recycling do you want?
Well, let's hope we'll always be able to drive them.
Well, that's the thing. I think there is going to be some conversions of cars to electric, especially some of the classics.
Yes.
Probably make them a bit more reliable, but take some of the patina off them.
Well, I think so much of it is the the physicality, the noise, the feel, the feedback from the car, and electric obviously doesn't provide that. However, we're all socially conscious. The thing that I want to see what I want to make sure of is that these cars have a carbon footprint that's actually real.
Are we getting told the truth?
Yeah, exactly.
When we were all supposed to buy diesels,
Yeah,
and that
of
didn't
course.
last very long, did it?
No, indeed. So the Aston didn't come until fairly recently, and
And I know you like James Bond. Was that part of
was
it?
always
And obviously this car being the Bond edition, it just kind of made sense, didn't it?
totally.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to when I remember being young and my father taking me to the cinema for the first time. There was, I think, the first 2 movies I went to were Star Wars, and then the second one was a Bond movie.
So it was the Millennium Falcon or this.
Yeah, exactly. And one is obviously more achievable, but.
That's another thing that people don't realise when they see people driving nice cars or whatever, and they just think they're being flash. But actually, as well as the emotional appeal, getting on great trips, meeting friends, it has a resonance with your childhood. My dad had, when he first got his first Mercedes after coming as an immigrant to this country and making it successful.
Yes.
And we used to go to the motor shows.
Yes.
I mean, that's a tie that we have.
Absolutely, that's your bond with in your relationship. Yeah, and I think what also people forget is that these are the latest development of what was once a horse, and horses were weapons of their era, and they were transport, and they gave you independence and the ability to travel. So this has a lot of horses, nearly 500, I think, but it's a form of independence. And then, of course, when coaches came along, this is where the word coach words come from. This is a coach. This is your travel carriage. And what I love about Aston Martin is that the driving experience is so pleasurable. The noise, the smell. This is beautifully appointed. It looks fantastic. It's a pleasure to drive. It's comfortable. It gets admiration everywhere I go. And it's a thing of beauty.
And it always looks good outside Clifton or somewhere like that. It really just feels at home, doesn't it?
It adds to the whole, English gentleman, James Bond, all that sort of stuff from my youth that resonates.
And do you have much of a tie with Ireland? Would you retire back, or is home now England?
Home is England,
Yeah.
and I don't see myself retiring back in Ireland, not because I don't love the country. It's the most wonderful place, and the people are the most wonderful people, and of course it's where I'm from. But I'm an Anglophile, and everything that I loved in my youth, the things that I love in my adulthood, the history, the architecture, the love of the arts, the good manners, gentleman behaviour, Savile suits, Ascot Henley, all of those things that I love enjoying. I wouldn't be able to do without those now. So
I think it's nice living
home.
near London and accessing all that, but being in the country.
Oh, absolutely. And a little place in London. We're not going to say no to that. But we love living where we live.
So going back to the teaching, what do you think? Teaching implies that there obviously a skill shortage or a shortage of knowledge. You know, we go through life. I'm still learning.
Yes.
But what do you feel is fundamentally missing in undergraduate education, or with the youngsters you've seen come through? Because I know you've mentored a few like Slaney.
Yeah.
What are the missing pieces that you aim to give them?
I actually think there are a lot of missing pieces. So, you know, where do you begin? Forget clinically for a moment, but communication skills. Unless somebody's an absolute natural, they're usually quite lacking. And I think the hard thing when you're young, you're so focused on trying to do the clinical aspect well that you forget that you're dealing with a person. And the ideal is not always what you can provide for a patient. There's a great phrase I heard, in fact, for the other day that said, treat, and it's about orthodontics, but treat children idealistically and treat adults realistically.
Interesting.
So mentoring is a key aspect that's missing in any training, undergrad or postgrad. And the other thing is, you learn more from actually sitting next to somebody or watching over the shoulder than you do from any lecture, any book, any hands-on course. So what we're trying to do is a whole immersive experience. Very much like Panky, you know how we used to go to
teach them, show them one, do one.
Exactly, and then discuss it later as a group and in a safe environment where you can expose yourself and say, do you know what, I know nothing about this, I'm very nervous about this. One of the things I learned about Panky was when we were British dentists or Irish dentists traveling to America, and the American dentists thought this was, incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
But we all had the same problems or the same concerns.
And you can't get that knowledge here.
No.
It's interesting to see how many British dentists, especially well-known ones, who are teaching in this country, have actually just gone abroad, gained that knowledge, and come back and shared it.
Absolutely. But I believe immersive learning and blended learning, and we're going to build a clinical aspect to the teaching, either observing close at hand or actually treating.
Well, I remember I did a year's course in implantology, although that's not a subject. And actually I learned more being mentored for my first 20 cases.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of an angle, a little bit of this, how, when things go wrong, what do you do? So definitely mentoring is probably the biggest thing, and it's great to see that as well as the teaching aspect, you can have a mentoring aspect.
100%, and that holding their hand beyond the day that you come in for that particular learning experience. And the other thing is, I'm going to invite team members and spouses. So, often the spouse or the partner gets neglected or forgotten about. And, if you're going to talk to a dentist about spending extra time to learn some things, time away from their home or their girlfriend or their family or their wife or their husband.
I'm going to be on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and the beautiful car, Mark.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.